Why did Gene Hackman, one of the most acclaimed actors of his generation, lie dead on his mudroom floor for 6 days before anybody realized he was dead? Why did this man's life spiral so out of control during the last 5 years of his life? Hey everyone, and welcome to my Tragic Hollywood on the Town. So today we are going to be talking about Gene Hackman, who was one of the most versatile and amazing actors ever to grace Hollywood. And he was so popular in the 70s and 80s and right through to the 90s. So, of course, when news of his tragic death happened and how it happened and all of the horrible circumstances surrounding that, people were so shocked because he was such a big player in Hollywood. So, we're going to talk about Gene Hackman because the year of his death anniversary was a few days ago. So, before we do that, please do all the things, like and subscribe. Please check my books out on Amazon, Tragic Hollywood, Beautiful, Glamorous, and Dead, Tragic Hollywood, Beautiful, Glamorous, and Still Dead, and my novel, Goodbye Angel, Goodbye. Those are all available on Amazon, and I have a link in the description to this channel. Also, you might want to check out my Facebook page. Again, I go into great detail about these stars on the page because I do about a 25 photo tribute, and that's what I did with Gene Hackman, and each photo talks about him. It was mostly his career highlights, all of the films that he made, everything from Bonnie and Clyde all the way through Enemy of the State with Will Smith. He was such an amazing actor. So let's get right into Gene Hackman. He was born in 1930 in San Bernardino, California, but apparently he had a rather turbulent childhood. His parents moved all over the place, sort of like military, but his father was not in the military as far as I can tell. And in fact, when Hackman was 13 years old, his father just abandoned the family and walked away. And I guess his mother later obtained a divorce, but I could kind of relate to that. This was around the same time that my own mother's husband, she married him when she was 18. My own mother's husband, after she had had 2 kids, he just left. He just abandoned the family. So around this time, in the 40s. So when Hackman was 16, he lied about his age and joined the military, specifically the Marine Corps. And I think he just wanted to get away from the family at that point. I think his mother might have been an alcoholic because of her hard life. They were living with his grandmother, and I think things were not that good for him. So he just wanted to get away. Again, I can relate to this because my own father just essentially threw down the plow one day and walked away from his family's farm and ranch and enlisted in the Marine Corps because he hated being there and he wanted another life, and that was the only way he could see of getting that life. So I can kind of relate to both of these things with Gene Hackman. He kind of bounced around and doing odd jobs. I think he moved to New York. He was trying to break into Broadway because he's always interested in becoming an actor. In 1950, he did eventually move back to California, and in 1956, he joined the prestigious Pasadena Playhouse, which had discovered a lot of famous people. I think William Holden was another famous actor that, cut his chops in the Pasadena Playhouse. So he wasn't particularly good looking, so he's not going to break into Hollywood that way. So he knew the only way he was going to do this was to become a really good actor. So that's what he did. He became a very good actor. And he began trying to break into Hollywood at this point. So he's toiling away in the Pasadena Playhouse at this time. And he's having to support himself because acting is not supporting him. So he's working at a Howard Johnson's. somewhere in Pasadena at a restaurant there, waiting tables. And he said of this time, and I'm going to read the quote here. He said at this time, it was more psychological warfare because I wasn't going to let those fuckers get me down. I insisted with myself that I would continue to do whatever it took to get a job. It was like me against them. And in some way, unfortunately, I still feel that way. But I think if you're really interested in acting and there's a part for you that relishes the struggle, it's a narcotic in a way that you're trained to do this work and nobody will let you do it. So you're a little bit nuts. You lie to people. You cheat. You do whatever it takes to get an audition job. So I guess he wasn't an overnight sensation, but he had something that a lot of actors don't have. It didn't come easy for him, so he had ambition. And that ambition drove him throughout his life. He put acting above everything, and I'm talking everything, including his family. And we'll get into that later. So his first credited film role was in the Cutting Edge movie with Warren Beatty and the tragic Gene Seberg, who's in my book, by the way. It was called Lilith, and it's about a couple of mental health patients in a mental asylum in the 1950s. It's a pretty hard-hitting movie, and that was his first credited role. So from there, he was able to secure other film roles. He didn't shirk television work like a lot of film stars did. He was slated to have a major role in The Graduate, but the director, Mike Nichols, fired him 3 weeks into the rehearsal for being too young for the role. I never thought Gene Hackman looked young. He always looked middle-aged to me. He was originally cast as Mr. Robinson in The Graduate. Okay, yeah, I think he was probably too young for that role. Even though Anne Bancroft was only in her 30s when she made that role. So, yeah. Anyway, after that, he went back to the Broadway and he did a few more Broadway things. But of course, the role that set him on the map for everybody was the amazing movie Bonnie and Clyde, 1967, with Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway. And he actually won an Academy Award nomination for his portrayal of Buck Barrow, Clyde's brother. And he did an amazing job in that movie. He was really good. That's where most people remember seeing him first, Gene Hackman. So you'd think that after that, success would just flow. But I think he kind of experienced the Academy Award curse initially. He went to Broadway again after that and did a few more plays. Did a few more television episodes. I Spy. Played in a movie called I Never Sang for My Father, in which she won the Academy Award. So, for Best Supporting Actor. Other various movies, The Hunting Party, of which he won another Academy Award nomination. The French Connection was a huge, huge hit when it came out. It was one of the very first movies to showcase a car chase scene. Bullet also had a massive car chase scene, but this changed the way they filmed car chase scenes. This movie was phenomenal. He was a hard-boiled detective in this movie, unhampered by sentiment, sort of an anti-hero type. And this movie was a massive success, and he won the Academy Award for Best Actor, 1971, for this movie, The French Connection. If you haven't seen it, you should. He was one of the most prolific actors of his time. He starred in 10 films over the next 3 years. 10 films in 3 years. And that's not including the cameo of the blind man in Young Frankenstein. So he was extremely prolific at that time. We're just going to talk about a few of those films. The Poseidon Adventure, everyone remembers. It was the first disaster film, and he starred as a preacher who guides all of the survivors of this upside down ocean liner to safety, had to convince everybody that the ocean liner actually was upside down because they didn't believe it. You'd think they'd see the tables on the ceiling and figure it out. But anyway, he spent a lot of time yelling and cursing in that movie. But he had a really good supporting cast: Ernest Borgnine, Shelley Winters. That song, There's Got to Be a Morning After, was a huge hit. I saw it in the theaters, and I thought it was a great movie. Then in 1974, he starred in a taut thriller with the great John Cazale, who died of cancer just 4 years later in his 40s. This was called The Conversation, and it's really a good movie and kind of set the tone for the type of films that Gene Hackman was known for. It was directed by Francis Ford Coppola. And then he followed that with a few other movies, one of them being Night Moves, which is sort of like a noir film, and it was very good. He played one of Teddy Roosevelt's Rough Riders in Bite the Bullet in 1975. He did French Connection 2, which wasn't as well received as French Connection 1, but still made him money. A Bridge Too Far, which had an all-star cast, including Ryan O'Neal and Michael Caine, was another one of his big hit movies. It was a war movie in 1975. Some of Gene Hackman's biggest hits were still ahead of him, but so was his horrific end in 2025. What happened during the last few years of his life that led to this tragic demise? Let's find out in part 2.